Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and I'm here on the range. There is construction noise in the background. I can only apologize for that. I will try to speak up so that you can hear me. I am wearing a lab coat because there is going to be a bit of science towards the end, though mostly this is just going to be me pontificating about ammo types, particularly the 3 newer ammo types, and in general my thoughts on what I want to see in a new ammo type. And it's really 2 things. I want either significantly better performance than anything that existed previously, or I want something new, something that we didn't have at all before that the new ammo gives us. And I'll expand on how some of the ammo kind of has that, and others don't have it, and others do have it, and all of that. A prime example of performance increase was half darts. They were more accurate, flew farther, and you could fit more of them in your loadout than you could with regular full darts. So that was a distinct improvement, to the point that it's now mainstream. Everyone uses half darts. You can buy them at Walmart by the 100. It's fantastic. The other new ammo types that have come out in the last couple of years, namely Hyper, or Ultra, Hyper, and Mega XL, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So we'll start with Ultra. Lord, that was crazy. Ultra got a bad rap right out of the gate, because as soon as we saw it, everyone got on the bandwagon of hating it. It's going to be horrible. It's a new ammo type. It doesn't work with our old stuff. Blah 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 blah. And a lot of that proved true, but I don't like when people speculate before they've actually held the thing. Wait until you actually have some evidence that you can say, I have used it. Here are my thoughts, before you form negative opinions that just poison the well. Now, that being said, this isn't great, especially because Hasbro promised, they advertised it as 120-foot ranges and super accurate and all of this, and then that just wasn't the case. It didn't get 120-foot ranges. It's not any more accurate than Elite, but it isn't as bad as a lot of people say. And again, a lot of that was they were hoping for better. They were told they were going to get better. Their expectations were high, and then when they didn't meet their expectations, they felt that it was worse than it really was. It isn't really any worse than Elite. The problem is, it isn't any better than Elite, and it doesn't give us anything new, so what's the point? When you can't hit a target at 25 feet, that's pretty bad. Though I think this says K26, and we discovered that at high power they get less accurate, which is a problem, especially for us modders. Like, well, what if we crank up the power? Do we get the range? Yeah, we might get the 120-foot range, but now you can't hit anything, so what's the point? It's kind of a weird size, too, because it's a thicker diameter than Elite darts, which are 50 cal, half inch, but it's shorter. And then it's significantly smaller in both dimensions, in both length and diameter, than a Mega Dart. So where does it fall as an ammo type? Do you put it under medium, like Mega, so it pierces shields? Do you put it down under just another light ammo? If you put it as a light ammo, pretty much no one's going to run it, because what's the point? If you make it a medium ammo like Mega, then it actually becomes useful, because you can pierce shields, and there are decent blasters, relatively speaking. Compared to Mega blasters, some of the Ultra blasters are actually pretty good. But it's harder to tell that you've been hit by them, because they're black and orange. From when flying on the field, they don't look a whole lot different than an Elite, half dart. And they're harder to see on the ground, whereas when a Mega Dart hits you, it's bigger. You can tell from the sound how heavy it was. You can see the big red dart coming at you and sitting on the ground. This made it harder, but if you decided to use it as an intermediate round, use it as a medium round, or something in between light and medium, though who knows. But it wasn't this huge, this is something new, where this has something that either it outperforms everything before it, like half darts did. Half darts, longer range, more accurate. They've become completely mainstream now. You can get them at Walmart. Rockets were huge. They were big. They were much bigger than anything that existed before. Same with Mega. It was so much bigger. It gave us something new. This didn't give us anything new, and the performance wasn't better than anything that existed before. Talk about Hyper. Hyper came out in, I believe, February of 2021, so it's fairly new, and it's just tiny rubber rival rounds, which should tell you pretty much everything you need to know. Well, what I'm going to say next, as far as, does it outperform anything that existed before? Did it give anything new? Well, let's see. We have here a Rush 40. Can I hit anything with it? Well, probably not if I prime it like that. You have to aim, you have to point down so it loads into the hopper. Nary so much. That's probably more me. It operates very similar to Rival. It's just smaller, which makes it easier to lose, which I don't like, but it doesn't mean you can hold more. So there is that. Higher capacity in a small package. This thing will hold 40 rounds. That's actually a very impressive capacity for a blaster this small, but it doesn't massively outperform as far as being far better range or far more accurate. I've heard when you put upgrades in them, heavier spring, better barrel, that kind of stuff, hop-up tab, they do get better, but I got one. But it doesn't outperform Rival to the point that I'm gonna throw all my Rival out and invest in Hyper. It's not that much better. And it doesn't offer anything new because it's even smaller than Rival. Got a Rival dart in a pocket here somewhere. It's considerably smaller, which, like I said, makes it easier to lose. They are brightly colored, and I do think they light up under a black light. But other than higher capacity, they don't offer anything. The other problem is that they are rubber, which means they get good traction, which in tires and shoes is great. In balls that are meant to feed in a hopper, that's not so great. They tend to not really stick to each other, but grip against each other, and you end up with feed issues. And Out of Darts has tried feeding them through a hose for a proton pack because you could get just so many of these into a hopper. They don't feed well. They don't feed in a hose well. They get stuck on each other. They don't roll well like Rival balls do through a hose. And so again, the high capacity is limited to manual kind of hoppers, and even in the flywheel blaster, they don't seem to work that well. So not significantly greater performance, not anything wildly new. Which brings us to Mega XL. Mega XL came out in, I believe, October of 2021. Might have snuck out in September, I don't know. And it's an enormous dart. It is, in fact, considerably larger than Mega, and therefore significantly larger than Elite, but is smaller than a Demolisher rocket. So again, we have the potential for an intermediate round, or just considering it a rocket. Kind of depends on how you want to play it. Performance-wise, it's probably better than Demolisher rockets, which if you're making it in a heavy ammo type, that's important. If you're making it a medium ammo type, so the same as Mega, then it gets about the same performance. And if you decide to make it an intermediate, where it's halfway in between, kind of, how do you feel? But again, it does, in my opinion, offer something new, because everything that Hasbro's come out with for rockets were HAMPs. Now, we came up with all kinds of, Springer-powered and air-powered launchers, but all of the official ones were HAMPs, which was not great. The new blasters are all spring-powered, and that makes these a lot more convenient to use. Plus, they've got ones that are 6-round revolvers and 2-barrel pump-action smart ARs and stuff like that. It does, I think, make the idea of using these as shield busters much more viable, much more useful. Is it something absolutely brand new? It depends. If you decided to use it as an intermediate round between rockets and Mega, then yeah, that would be a new ammo type, totally new mechanic if you decided to go that route. I'm currently not going that route because I like really simple mechanics. I would prefer to have 3 ammo types, small, medium, and large, rather than putting in small, medium, larger, largest. It starts to get fuzzy the more ammo types categories you put in. But I like them. Let's play. I have here a boom dozer with a stock on it. They finally put a stock attachment point. Not a single blaster in the entire Mega line has a stock attachment point, and it bugs me. Here, they gave it a stock attachment point. Hey, hit a bottle. Round's complete. Yeah, definitely not the most accurate thing in the world, but it's got slam fire, which lets you put out a lot of firepower all at once. I like it. Does it perform considerably better than anything from the past? No. Does it add something that is absolutely new as a mechanic? No. But I still like it more than I like the other two. It's big, it's obvious what you've been hit by, it's very clearly the big blue dart as opposed to anything else. And I think if used correctly, it could definitely be an advantage on the battlefield against shields. Now the thing about shields is that people play them very, very differently. In my small CQB arena, a shield is incredibly powerful because people don't have as much time to react because of how close quarters everything is. Whereas in the big open fields like we had at Borst, it was really kind of rough to run a shield towards the end because so many people started carrying things that could take them out. And it was easy to line them up before they could get close enough to engage because of what limitations we had on the weapons that shield users could use. If we decide to make this shield breaking and it actually destroys the shield, we may have to increase what blasters the shield users can use in order to give them a more level footing against the new stuff. Or shield users just need to get better at having somebody cover them, or, you know, that's kind of how the evolution works. And that's the most important thing about the game balance is you in your game need to work out what needs to happen, because what works for me on my field with my players, with our loadouts, is going to be different than your players on your field with their loadouts, and your rules and your play style and your game mechanics. All of that is going to be different for everybody. And so that's where asking what should this be, well, you're going to need to run it. You're going to need to test it. You're going to need to make hypotheses. Okay, we're going to run them as shield breakers and see what happens. And if it just makes shields completely useless and nobody bothers to use shields anymore, well, then you might roll that back. You might say, okay, it takes 2 hits with one of these to destroy. The first one acts as Mega and tags you. The second hit with Mega XL destroys the shield. So they get 1 life. And again, but that's, you know, more complicated. It's bookkeeping, who keeps track, how do you make sure? Again, that comes down to you and your mechanics and your players and how it works on your field. Test it, run it, balance it. That's how game balance works. That's why video games are constantly coming out with patches and adjusting things, because you never know what's going to work with one set of players. It might have worked great with the testers, you then put it in the field and it doesn't work at all. Run with it, play with it, have fun with it. All right, now to the science. Because naturally, when these ammo types came out, people told me, well, you need to make it so that Ire can fire that. You need to make an Absolver for Ire for that. Well, oddly enough, I didn't need to. This is the very first barrel that I ever made for Ire, back in like 2012 or 2013 when I first put a Titan tank as the master key on Ire. And by bizarre coincidence, I truly believe, it will fire all 3 of these new ammo types. It is perfectly chambered for Ultra darts. It was originally designed to fire Whistler darts. It didn't fire them great, but it worked. It will also fire old Mega, which will also come up, but it perfectly fits Ultra. It'll fire it. Also, turns out you can just muzzle load Hyper. Hyper is a little bit smaller than Ultra. I mean, a hair, so it's loose, but it'll seat all the way down in there, and while it won't fire it great, it'll fire it. If you tilt the barrel down, it'll just roll out, but it'll fire it. But of all those, Mega XL fits absolutely perfectly. And we'll find out why later. But for now, I'm a plink. Woo! Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. All right, so what's going on there? This is where the science comes in. We're gonna bring out an old blaster, a really old blaster, for, well, relatively speaking, that with a single modification done with a pair of pliers, without opening the blaster, it will now fire all three of those ammo types. Won't fire them well, but it'll fire them. It'll also fire elite darts and half darts and old arrows. Yeah, I give you the triple torch from 1998. The only modification I did was I pulled out the dart post with a pair of pliers. And now it will fire Ultra, because remember, Ultra is the same size as old Mega darts, which is what this was designed to fire, old Mega. They will just muzzle load and... I hit! I am baffled. It will fire Hyper, because the barrel inside has two diameters, one for old Mega and then an inner one for old Elite. And so you can force this in here and it will in fact seal. Doesn't fire it well, but it fires it. And finally, the outside diameter of the barrel is for old arrows, which is exactly what the inside diameter of Mega XL fits. So it will fire Mega XL. Again, won't fire it well, but then it didn't fire the old arrows particularly well. But it will. Now, interestingly, it will also fire modern elite darts quite well as half darts, if you can get them down in there. The triple torch. Wacky fun. Let's do some long-range testing with Mega XL on Ire, because that's the interesting one. To the field. We're now in the open field, as you can see. I have Ire's barrel attachment. I have a Mega XL dart. Now the big question when I saw these was, what's gonna happen when we fire them from something with a lot more power? I figured the stock performance was gonna be fairly meh. I was expecting at least Mega performance, which is it's a little under Mega, I believe. But we'll see what happens when we start upgrading those blasters soon. But what if we dial it to 11? Is it gonna become horrifically inaccurate like Rival and Mega does? Because Mega, after a certain FPS, just becomes useless unless you're using AccuFakes. And Rival also, past a certain FPS, you just can't hit anything. There's no point. So what happens when we crank this thing all the way up? That's amazing. I'm right at the beginning, and that looks to be right around the 110, 115 range. Flight pattern was a little erratic at the beginning, but it leveled out. Let's put in a few less berries. Let's put 7 pumps and see what happens. Oh, that was much straighter. Shorter range, but much straighter. 5 pumps. Shorter range. I think it got a little more erratic. Kind of hard to really tell. 4 pumps. Oh, that was 4 pumps gave it a beautiful flight pattern. Let's try that again. Interesting. Last one, I'm gonna go full berries again. 12 pumps. Well, that went a lot farther and flew perfectly straight. That is amazing. I am really looking forward to seeing what happens when people make Mega XL burns and other sundry crazy things to fire that ammo type. I want to see flywheelers firing it from magazines. I want to see, like I said, a Mega XL burn, a massive burn, perhaps chambered for Mega XL. I'm excited about it. It's an ammo type that actually genuinely has me looking forward to seeing what people do with it, and what effect that will have on the game. You know, because it could have an effect, and it's going to be different for everybody. So I'm fascinated to see where it goes. Let me know what you guys would like to see, if you guys have started using them because they've started showing up. What has been your experience? Have they broken shields completely? Are they not that impressive? Are shield users having to get more intelligent? Have a buddy with a with a Nexus or something to take out the shield breakers. How are you dealing with this? How is it working out for you? Talk to me in the comments and let me know. Thank you for watching.